Warning, an actual good film inbound. Leave now if you can't handle the fact that I can like kids films. Nah, not really. I know you guys will probably agree with me, unless you're like 5 or something. While I may have some strong bias in this review, considering the fact that I unironically think that Spongebob is the greatest cartoon of all time, for as jaded and cynical I can get on this channel, I'll always have a particular soft spot for Spongebob. The show works so incredibly well because it had universal appeal. It's as much as a good kids cartoon as it is a good show in general. There has been many video essays online analysing its universal appeal, and in particular I think Lemon's video on it is phenomenal. I love the show so much in fact, that I bought an animation cell of the first season. But there is a massive detail I need to explain about my opinion on the show. I only really enjoyed the first 3 seasons, and when it gets past season 5, it just becomes unbelievably shit. Maybe I'll talk about the show in more detail one day, but this isn't this video's main topic. SpongeBob was created by the legendary Stephen Hillenburg, who was not only a great cartoonist, but was also a marine biologist. He sadly passed away before the 3rd movie. Part of the reason why SpongeBob declined in quality was because a lot of the writing team left after the 1st movie. Hillenburg intended for the movie to be the finale of SpongeBob. There wasn't meant to be any more, and after the movie, the writing team changed, the animation changed, and the iconic music that the show was known for was altered. So we know the series declined, but did the movie catch the magic of the show? This video will review the original film, and I hope to get through all of them at some point. The fact there is a Sandy Cheeks movie and another film coming out is just insane, guys. I can't believe it, they really should have stopped after the 2nd really. And also guys, it's important to mention before the review starts, that Stephen Hillenburg quoted, "I don't see any spin-offs." And it's also important to note that the 3rd film was released after he passed away. Yeah, we'll get back to that point, don't worry guys. From memory, this movie was amazing. I loved this movie as a kid, and I also loved the video game they made on it. You may notice that that's my first video on the channel. Yeah, I'd like to think I've improved a bit. I mean, not only does this film really hold up, I genuinely think that it's one of the great animated films. I love this movie, and nostalgia doesn't play a part in that. This movie is just awesome. It's been many years since I've seen it, and I always liked it, but I actually enjoyed it a lot more as an adult. Even I didn't expect to love it so much as I did now. The plot of this movie was supposed to end the series, of course, so in the canon, this is the last SpongeBob adventure, and I couldn't have thought of a better ending. The story is that a second Krusty Krab is being built right next to the original. SpongeBob thinks that he's going to get the manager role, but it goes to Squidward. In the background, Plankton steals King Neptune's crown and frames Mr. Krabs, so it's up to SpongeBob and Patrick to save the day. And what I've said before is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel to make a solid movie, and this film does that to a T. It's a buddy road trip movie, but it is incredibly funny and charming, and lacks all the bullshit tropes that are normally in a film like this. Somehow, out of all the big budget Pixar, Disney and DreamWorks films, the Spongebob Movie out of all things manages to not have these issues. I think it's because the writing is just so brilliant. I think partly why this movie succeeds so well is because the film has character. How many fucking movies do people see nowadays that lack any charm or originality? I mean, comparing this to the $200 million budget Wish by Disney is completely night and day. It's actually embarrassing, to be honest. I think this comparison can make more sense when you explain it in YouTuber terms. I love essay videos and commentary channels, which is exactly why I started to make videos like that. And that's why I'd easily take an Lemon video over other channels. The video essay genre on YouTube has been criticised in recent times, and this is because they have turned into these big production teams, churning out video after video, and this removes what I think is the best selling point of the site. The fact that anyone can make their own video and express their thoughts online is still a marvel to me, even today. And the fact that a video essay channel like Lemon can still show his personality, even at his size, makes his videos leagues above the others. And this can be brought into why this movie works so well. Stephen Hillenburg wasn't a guy trying to make as much money as possible. He was an extremely intelligent guy, who was a marine biologist who had a clear love for the sea. He was also an incredibly talented and funny animator, who worked on Rocko's Modern Life beforehand. This created the perfect storm that resulted in this great movie. His talent completely shines through. This movie doesn't feel like they sold out at all, unlike the later sequels, may I add, and it's very respectable that this was his last main project on the series. He definitely went out with a bang. The soundtrack itself is clear enough to me how personal this movie is. If you guys didn't know, Steven Hillenburg was heavily inspired by the 1997 album The Mollusk, which is one of my favourite albums of all time. Because Steven Hillenburg was such a big fan, he referenced it in early Spongebob.
Mind your wandering eye, you little mollusk.
And the band behind the album made the Loop de Loop song for him. And very fittingly, the series ended with Ocean Man by Ween. This is a band that isn't that popular, and is known for very weird experimental songs, so the fact that this was included in a mainstream kids film, I guess shows that Nickelodeon gave the SpongeBob writers room to experiment and do their own thing, and this is definitely missing in Disney projects in general. No wonder all of their films feel so samey, and also feel like products. Speaking of writers, this movie had 6 of them. 6! How many films do you know have that many people credited to the screenplay, and it actually working out? It's definitely more of a unique case, as it's just the writers from the show, but because they are responsible for some of the best animated episodes ever, it's not shocking that this worked out actually. The charm and effort persists in this whole movie. Like, the live action shit at the start had no reason to go that hard, honestly. The gags are funny, and making this set on a pirate ship is so absurd that you can't help but admire their efforts. I love how they did stuff like putting SpongeBob's name on a flag, and I love the fact that they made an original version of the theme song.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants.
The film's humour works well for kids and adults. You would never have these themes in a Disney film these days, or heck, even in the later Spongebob movies. They became more dull and lifeless as the series went on. I guess that just describes a lot of the film industry in general. You would just never see today the joke that SpongeBob, you know, quote unquote, a children's cartoon, is blowing bubbles, which is basically his version of smoking. He also gets absolutely hammered in this movie, in the form of eating ice cream, and he just shows up incredibly drunk to work. Not only is it hilarious, but it also shows how they can show adult jokes, but still make them entertaining for kids. And the animation in general holds up very well. The budget was $30 million back in 2004, which wasn't that big for animated films around the time, but it's bright and vibrant, and fits the tone, and also improves on the original series. 2D animated films around the time were trying to cram in CGI elements at every chance they got, and a lot of the DreamWorks ones look really shit now. But the use of CGI in this film works, because it's either subtle or cleverly masked, and this makes it never feel overbearing. The issue with modern SpongeBob is the fact that there is constant crazy expressions, which is just copying great shows like Ren and Stimpy. But people like SpongeBob because it wasn't like Ren and Stimpy. It was SpongeBob. The animation design being mostly straight is the best for SpongeBob, and this is because of the contrast of the freeze frame moments. This movie does it well, of course, and it works because you don't see them all the time, so it's shocking and amusing when you do. This movie is also helped by an incredible breakneck pace, and there isn't a wasted moment in this one. Even the pirates at the start are fun, and don't feel like filler, and they kind of add to the movie, to be honest, as it feels more like a grand event, and a great send-off to these characters. I really can't fault this movie much at all, to be honest, but if I had to, I would say this. I would have liked to see more of the side characters in this film. It's not the end of the world in the grand scheme of things, and I do get that it is SpongeBob's film, but you know, this was supposed to be the ending of the entire series, and characters like Sandy are barely in the film. She may as well have not been in it, to be honest. And not having Squidward, the character which has been important in a lot of the best SpongeBob episodes, doesn't get much time on screen either. So maybe both of them could have worked together or something in this movie as a side plot or something. But then again, it's not the end of the world, and we still have the brilliant episodes to get more time with them. The ending of this film couldn't be more perfect, to be honest. The fact that SpongeBob gets called a kid the whole movie, even though he technically is an adult, makes you think that he ends up maturing by the end. And in some ways he does, but the movie is more about accepting who you are, and embracing it to the fullest. This results in honestly one of the best endings to any animated film. The jokes in general in this movie work very well, and are reminiscent of the show. If you're not a fan of the show's humour, then you probably wouldn't like this movie. The humour is fresh, absurd, and crazy at times, and if that's your style, you'll absolutely love it. The voice acting in this is also really good, and the new characters actually bring something good to the movie. Mindy and the new version of King Neptune are funny, and Dennis is a good side villain. He's quite intimidating too, and the fact that he's voiced by Alec Baldwin, who doesn't have the best track record to say the least, is admirable. Even the David Hasselhoff character works, at least for me, because as a kid I had no idea who this guy was, so for this random Mega Chad human to come in and save the day was just very amusing to me. They try and replicate this in the third film, but they really fucking missed the mark. So yeah, as you can tell, this film is not first class junk. You guys can rest easy knowing that. It's honestly a great movie, and so refreshing to see after the amount of crap that I've consumed. I'll get to the other movies soon, particularly the third one, as I have so much to say about it. Anyway, thanks for watching guys.